Welcome into Two Guys, One Pod Fantasy Football Podcast. I am the host of this podcast, co-host, legendary ball knower, aka your favorite podcaster, aka Sheb Door Sanders, aka Sheb90. And I'm here today with a very, very special guest. Today's episode features the king of engagement on the Twitter streets, a masterful maestro of the content space, one of my favorite follows on all of Al Gore's internet. He is the co-host of Risers and Fallers in the face of many, one of my favorite segments on Player Profiler, Keep Trade Chuck. I welcome the man, the myth, the legend himself, ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Bass. How we doing today, Chuck?
I don't even know what you need me for when you got openers like that coming on. That's radio, film, and television at its absolute finest right there. It's probably be a good time for me to admit you've been my ghostwriter for most of my tweets for a better part of a year now. So I just want to credit you and thank you for my rise to stardom.
Listen, I will take the Gilly role in Lil Wayne's rise to stardom, but you still get to be Lil Wayne. So, I mean, like, we both win, but somebody got a lot more out of this for sure.
Okay, so that means that 10 years from now, everyone's going to start hating on my legacy and I'm going to get passed over for Super Bowl spots?
Yeah. That's okay. Ultimately like, hey, live long enough and you're going to see yourself become the villain.
I can work with that.
Or whatever Harvey Dent said in the deal. But
oh, yeah.
No, I mean, Chuck, tell us a little bit about what you got going on, man. Like I said, I'm a big fan of your content and the Keep Trade Chuck idea. The shorts are absolutely magnificent. But tell us a little bit more about, kind of your background and what you got going on.
Sure. So I got into making longtime fantasy player, playing too long, burnt out, has been, maybe even a never was, if you're a replacements fan out there. And it just one day, I was listening to a podcast, very famous podcast who I won't name. And I just remember saying, no, you don't know what you're talking about. You're wrong. That's bullshit. And just like we all did, we thought we knew more than them. So we started making content and it didn't go anywhere. And eventually you just started faking it till you making it. I kind of learned how to make fantasy content sarcastically. So it's like the other guy's meme where he's like, you learned how to dance sarcastically. Like that's kind of how I got into content. And eventually, I started hanging around and fantastic content creators like the Player Profiler community. And I don't know, just by osmosis or something, the takes started flowing.
Man, that's the beauty of this thing is like there's an element of imposter syndrome because it has nothing to do with any of our actual abilities. Like whether or not our takes hit, whether or not they're good, whether or not they're bad, like it's dependent on a completely separate grown man entity who's never met us, probably doesn't even know we exist, most likely doesn't know we exist. He's dealing with a mortgage, he's dealing with a family. So we just make content, try to make it entertaining, and you have succeeded on that front big time. So kudos to you. I'm glad to have you here today. We're going to talk we're in the middle of June. There's not very much to talk about besides some strategy.
Oh yeah.
So you're going to strategize a very unique build for us today. So Chuck, do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're going to be getting into?
So just like most of my life, I'm going to be a late trend adopter, and we're going to go 0 wide receiver. It's the age of the running back, at least if we're all still alive through the end of this year. I think they're dominant. They're reliable. Offensive lines are as good as they've ever been. Offensive play calling is as good as they've ever been. And honestly, receivers as good as it's ever been, which lends itself to this strategy of being able to maybe punt on some of these guys for a little bit longer and just try to back end some wide receiver 13, wide receiver 17, wide receiver 19, just get some floor generals out there on your team that can bring veteran presence that you're probably going to get at a bigger discount than you would in traditional years.
So instead of going with the alpha diva book reader on the sideline or the guy with the coolest celebration in the game, we're really after more of the real heady players, the real gym rats, the real coaches players, the guy who's always in the right spot. We're looking at some guy.
Doesn't get any better than that, does it?
No, man. Every time I get a chance to rattle those off, I'm not going to lie to you, I take great pride.
Plays the game the right way.
Yeah, plays the game the right way. We're coach's son.
Hell yeah.
he knows where everybody's supposed to be on the field. But yeah, we're gonna take our eyes off of some of the more elite at the position, and we're gonna, for lack of a better term, we're gonna punt. Now, if you're playing in punter leagues, this isn't the episode for you. We're not actually gonna punt anything, but we're gonna talk some zero wide receiver with the great one that they call Chuck Bass. So lead me down this path a little bit, because as I'm getting into the redraft streets and really getting hot and heavy into best ball and spending way too much of my time and money on that, I'm thinking about like where do I want to go when it gets to redraft season? Because all this just so you know, is just so I started doing this just so I could kick my friend's ass at fantasy.
Hell yeah.
Like we have a league, it's been going for about 17 years.
Is it working?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
It's a mixed bag with that.
Yeah. Well, like it, so you've got obviously with my home league, you've got the one guy who just never pays attention. Sure. Who's just like, yeah, man, $125 on Jalen Coker. Just
who always beats you too, right? That's the guy I always lose to. And they crush me when they play me. I lose by like 30.
Yeah. No, it's embarrassing. Like the group chat gets lit up, and I gotta take it on the shins pretty good. And this is all guys I've been friends with since we were like 12. So yeah, it gets brutal. And so the whole big part of the reason I started doing this, because like I obsessed about researching it, and then people would say stuff like you said, and I'd be like, I don't agree with that at all. And then I got even further into it, and I was like, well, man, that's just not what happened. So are y'all putting stuff out here and not telling the truth about stuff? It's like, are you just
feels like
I'm a little bit older, so I'm like, man, I don't like all this clickbait nonsense. Like,
yeah,
it enrages me. I just old man. I go out and stand in my yard and just yell.
Yep.
The neighbors get concerned, but they're used to it now, so it's fine. But so really,
that's something that your eyes are opened up to it once you start making content, and you can see the thought process behind someone's takes without even seeing anything else, just because it's like you're trying to stand out in a crowded industry, or you're trying to swerve down a lane that no one's been down yet, or you're just expected to be the person who says that. So you say it, and it's either not actionable advice, or you say it like it's a fact, when in reality it's one of several possibilities, or you're just an asshole. So usually one of those. Yeah.
So it's always fun to be able to get into some strategy and be able to, have an edge and create different strategies based on, zigging when people are zagging, or, just reacting to where the market is headed. So,
of course,
like I said, we're going to hop on some majestic steeds and ride into the mists of Avalon, the zero wide receivers.
Please.
So, Chuck, the floor is yours, brother.
All right. So this is imperative. If you're going to pull off this strategy in the first 2 rounds, you have to go lethal weapon. You have to have the old dog and the young buck. And I don't care which way you do it. I don't care if it's a Jahmyr Gibbs and a Christian McCaffrey, or a Bijan Robinson and a Jonathan Taylor, or a Devon Achane and a Derrick Henry. Which way you guys want to play, you have to have that pairing. It's not just important for your psyche, but as far as reliability goes, knowing that you're not taking 2 old dogs and they're going to break down, or not taking 2 young bucks and there's going to be some inconsistency with either how they're used or their play callers, specifically this year, right? Mike McDaniel, what's going on with his play calling and what they're trying to do there. New coordinator in Detroit, Bucky Irving. Can they continue under a new coordinator there in Tampa? There's 100 reasons for 100 different guys, right? But you want to make sure you don't have too many eggs in the old basket or the young basket, because I just don't think it's going to end up being fruitful for you.
Yeah, that's an important point. So obviously we know Christian McCaffrey has RB1 overall upside, but that selection is coming at the risk of him maybe only playing 4 games, whatever he played in 2024, or the 2 games that he played in 2020, or the 1 game he played in 2021. So it's a high risk, high reward pick. So you want to couple that with, if you get Jahmyr Gibbs and CMC to start, that's not going to work. Like that, I'm not gonna lie. I might be in the cement aisle for hours and hours, just gathering all the bricks I can for a start like that. So where do we go from there? So the first two rounds, we've got the young buck and the old lion.
Sure. All right. So then it just depends on how you were raised by your parents, or it depends on, how you performed in school, because now it comes, the third round is where you really get to show your personality traits, right? The first 17, 18 players off of most boards are in usually the same order. And then it just depends on how the team builds want to be. But you get into round 3, you get into your Josh Jacobs, your Breece Halls, your Kyron Williams, your Chase Browns. And that's just if you want to go running back. Do you want to be the Josh Allen guy today? You want to be the Lamar Jackson guy today? Jaden Daniels? If you want to be the Commanders guy today? It really just depends. And now this is, of course, a big part of this strategy for me this year does look at those round 3 wide receivers. And it does make me more inclined to go with these running backs, because you're looking at Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Harrison Jr. I can find serious flaws in all of their situations, regardless of player. I think they're all supremely talented guys who are going to have a nice long career. Sans Terry, who's, getting closer to 30, but he's still pretty much in his prime. I just think that all of these running backs can give you top 5, top 7 potential, on top of having maybe 2 other top running backs. And if you have 3 top 10 running backs on your team, you're making the playoffs as the 6th seed at worst and the 1 seed at best.
Yeah. So that's an important point, because you brought up a great point there, because of the fact that all of those guys that you mentioned, I won't quote them direct. I don't think I can get it all directly and correct, fully correct. Yep. So we'll say Garrett Wilson. Yeah, fully erect, fully correct. I'm not erect for a lot of these guys for various reasons. Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson. I believe you said JSN.
Yep. McLaurin.
Yes. So we can poke holes in every single one, like in every single argument for them being foolproof, which no one should be making an argument that these guys are foolproof at this point. We have so many questions about the situation. You alluded to the fact that we know that they're extremely talented, but talent doesn't always score fantasy points. We saw that last year with Marvin Harrison Jr. We've seen Garrett Wilson quite literally be the 6th most targeted player in his first 3 seasons in the history of the NFL. And that has amassed I think he's never surpassed like wide receiver 20 in points per game.
Yeah, he was on track until he got Devontae'd pretty heavily.
got best friended out of the circle of trust, and now we're getting a discount on a supreme talent, which is cool for Dynasty, but we're talking building a roster for 2025 so I can win in 2025. So that's an important point, man. So
have you ever seen a wide receiver get friend zoned before? I don't know if that might be the first time I've seen that happen.
That's tough. Like, he's all like they're in the locker room. He walks past Aaron. Aaron's kind of looking real sheepish, like, hey, who you texting? And then Aaron's like, nobody, don't worry about it. And it's the whole time it's Devontae Adams is the guy you're not supposed to worry about. It's like, man, what?
Yep. He got his ex just came in, wasn't over. He never deleted his number.
Never blocked him, never deleted his number. They're probably still exchanging Snapchats right now.
Fellas, if you're listening, make sure she deletes his number. That's imperative going forward.
Blocks him too. Just take it a step further. Block, delete, whatever you need to do.
LinkedIn, anywhere, gone, out the window.
So now we've got let me take this a step further and ask you, which way do you lean on this pivotal decision point here, early quarterback or hammer running back?
This is a great question, because the divide between the elite guys and the quarterback, say like 12 or 13, feels like it's never been greater. And so it's really hard for me to mount a case on passing on one of these guys. But I swear, every time I take a Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, and then I get to round 12 and Fields and Drake May and Brock Purdy are still there and Dak Prescott, I know they don't have the ceiling, but maybe it's the hubris of me of like, I can fix him. I can make him, I can treat him better than they did. I just always regret it. And how that bears out in the season is tough, because it's hard to compare the emotion in June versus, watching Josh Allen score 5 touchdowns on a Thanksgiving game in the snow or something like that. Like, it's where you end up falling apart is a little less predicated, I think, on the quarterback than your roster. So I find myself punting the quarterback a little bit more, at least the top guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the roster construction just looks and feels totally different when you're talking about a draft where you go with Josh Jacobs and then you backdoor with a Dak. I mean, obviously you're going to select more than one quarterback if you punt quarterback very far, but the guy with the rushing upside like Fields, who's 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round sometimes, or Drake May, who had the 6th most rushing yards of any quarterback in his first, I think, 4 starts since 2000. So you can get those guys later, and they're ascending assets. I don't know how you feel. Like, I don't know how you feel about Fields, but it's like, hey, here's a super cheap dual threat quarterback who's going to run his way into top 10 weeks more times than he won't, as long as he's a starter.
Yep.
And you get him in the 12th round. It's like, is the difference, obviously, the consistency of a guy like Jalen Hurts with the tush push, the consistency of a guy like Josh Allen just being incredible at football, Lamar Jackson being a Konami code. But what if that comes back to more of the 2024 where it's just like they're so awesome they don't need him to do all that stuff?
That's a huge part of it. And I think that there's 2 other things I'll add. I always feel so much better when I look at my start. Now, I know we don't just draft starters, right? Don't draft to just fill your starters. But when my second flex is like and this is a 2 flex league. If it's like DeAndre Swift, I'm like, shit. But if and my quarterback is Josh Allen, but then if I swap those, and my second flex is like a Rome Odunze or an RJ Harvey, and then I have a Justin Fields or a Drake May, I feel like I go from like a 7.5 mood wise to like an 8.9, just because I think the best team you can possibly build is hitting quarterback and tight end later and stuffing the stat sheet with starters, in those first 6 to 8 rounds. So, is that always the most likely scenario? No, but it certainly has the highest floor, the highest ceiling of any team you can build.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm with you there. So now that we've kind of made the decision, so first we're taking a young bull and an old lion. We're gonna build out that roster that way. Then we're gonna figure out, if you're using safe words on a regular basis, are you taking a quarterback? Which we got the answer. Freight Train Chuck is punting the quarterback position to later in the draft.
Yep.
And so now, where are we going? Where do you feel like you want to go now?
So my favorite thing that I've done, and this is not what we're going to do in this one, not favorite's the wrong word, but one that really got me feeling hot one time was hitting Chase Brown in that round 4 and then hitting a little Joe Burrow. So that way I don't have to worry about the wide receivers. I'm just getting the points through the quarterback. We're playing 6 quarterback leagues or 6-point passing touchdown leagues. So that way you're getting the rushing and the passing production in Cincinnati. But for the sake of this exercise, we're punting on quarterback because that just feels like the right move. Because now we're getting into even murkier wide receiver territory, right? Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Ted McMillan, Cortland Sutton, like guys I like, guys I don't have a problem with, guys I like to watch on the Red Zone recap on Sundays, but not necessarily guys you feel gung-ho about being your wide receiver 1. Like if I'm going to have a guy I already feel nervous about, I'm going to wait until a little bit later and find guys that I think have similar floors and similar upsides. So let's get into rookie territory, baby. We've got Judkins, we've got RJ Harvey, we've got Trevion Henderson. Like I love all these guys. I love all their fits. I love the backfields that they landed in when it comes to the opportunity share they could have early on, the offensive lines they'll be running behind, the guys who are in charge of the play calling. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. I don't think they have Genty upside. I don't think they have Hampton upside, but floor is as high as some of these 4 or 5 year vets.
Yeah, that's a great point. So obviously every single year we have these rookie running backs. Last year kind of being more of the exception in 2024, where it was really only Bucky Irving. Isaac Guerrero gave you some winning weeks towards the back half, the last, during the fantasy playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
But now we have a loaded running back class.
Yeah.
And so we're punting on quarterback in round 4, round 5. Chase Brown is a prime target there. I mean, I was talking with Pete, and we've been going back and forth. And he posted something in this group chat that we have where he was saying that he's like, man, I don't know if Chase Brown gets threatened by. That's Pete Nova, by the way, big friend of the show, great colleague. And we were going back and forth. And so he posted this thing where he's like, man, what if, I don't know if Chase Brown gets the workload that he got last year. And my only point of contention is that we've seen for several years now, since Zach Taylor's had that job, they've operated pretty much with one running back operating as the bell cow.
Yeah.
First it was Joe Mixon. Then, they kind of split the work, and then Zach Moss broke his neck or whatever happened. Hope he's doing good.
A little too much Busta Rhymes.
Yeah, too much. And so now they go back to, weeks 8 through 17. Chase Brown is a man among men. He's roughly 19 points a game. He caught 54 passes, and they didn't add anyone of significance in the draft. They added Taj Brooks, who I like, but I'd be a fool to start making bets on Taj Brooks to take snaps or take touches away from Chase Brown. So I love that. And then we got into the rookie territory where we're saying like, hey, let's look at the Quinshon Judkins. Let's look at the RJ Harveys. Let's look at the Travion Hendersons.
Yeah.
Amarion Hampton. Like, let's take a shot on some rookies there in rounds 4 and 5. So if you're tracking with us, I'm kind of running down the Bass Bible of redraft.
Woo! Trademark that.
So we old running back, young buck, first 2 rounds. We're taking another running back in round 3. So we are the highest of high T's right now. Then maybe perhaps potentially we go Chase Brown in round 4, or or we hit one of the rookie running backs. So either go with young vet in Chase Brown, first contract running back vet, or one of the rookies that we like. You just kind of pick your poison. Personally, I think for me it's gonna be either RJ Harvey or Quinshon Judkins, just because I like what I can project for their volume to be.
Absolutely.
Travion probably is the only one that could do limited efficiency and have incredible upside. The other 2 guys are probably going to be volume, pass catching workhorses. So after we hit those rookies, what direction you want to go in next, Chuck?
See, this is what I love about the board specifically this year and how ADPs are shaking out, because let's say that somebody wants to flip what we just said, right? Let's say they want to go heavy vet early, because a lot of these vets are still holding on to jobs that they're boomers. Basically, they have not left the workforce, and they are dominating executive positions. Your Henrys, your McCaffreys, your Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara's. Like, you could start your draft theoretically with all 4 of those guys if you really wanted to, and you would, I would honestly buy Nugenics from you, because I know you'd be selling. Like, the thumbnail for this video or for this audio needs to be Frank Thomas and Doug Flutie, because that's basically who we are right now with this with this action that we've got. And then you can hammer rookies if you want to, like you said. I mean, you even got Caleb Johnson coming up around the bend, a little Cam Scattaboo. Or if you wanted to reverse the trend and you wanted to go young early, right? Bijan, Bucky, Genty, Brees Hall still qualifies as young for me. Chase Brown. Yeah. And then you want to bring some vets in. Maybe you're a James Conner guy. He's done you well. Maybe you're David Montgomery is the rock and the foundation of the Lions rushing attack. Aaron Jones is still putting up big efficiency numbers. Brian Robinson, because you've suffered some brain injuries from a traumatic car accident. Something has happened along the way. Tony Pollard, whose efficiency numbers were incredible last year. You can mix and match depending on any which way you want to go. Here's where we really have to make the call here. And I would love to get your input on this one. I'm really struggling with tight end this year. Mm-hmm. Tight end has been very hard for me to feel comfortable with, because I think you have your big 3. I think you have about 5 guys who are overpriced. And then I think you have 5+ guys that could easily finish as the tight end 5. I just don't know which one it's going to be. Where are you landing on these kind of, after the blue bloods, where are you landing on tight end?
I'm a big proponent of George Kittle being a value, just because, he's the first guy. He's the first guy that's going, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons on less than 100 targets. The efficiency metrics are incredible. Yeah. Now, I'll say this. what I have been doing in a lot of best ball is there's a guy with very similar efficiency metrics that I'm a big fan of. You've seen me
Is he a
argue with people
cheesehead?
on. He is a cheesehead.
Yeah.
He is a cheesehead. I am falling madly in love with Tucker Kraft in 2025.
He's my most drafted tight end.
Yeah. So for me, it's just looking at the ambiguity of who's going to command targets in the wide receiver room, and then looking at all the efficiency metrics. I mean, he led in yards after contact per attempt in the entire NFL in 2024. George Kittle was second. He was at 9.38 yards a reception. George Kittle was second at 6.71. He was second in yards per target at tight end behind George Kittle and seventh in the entire NFL. Like, it just, everything screams like, hey. And then you go back to the exit meetings, after the wild card loss or whatever round that loss was, whatever, when they lost to the Eagles, the eventual Super Bowl champions. You go back and you listen to what Matt LaFleur said when a guy asked him very directly, do you see Tucker Kraft's role growing within this offense? And he said, do you think, and then the follow-up was, do you think it could grow into a Travis Kelce or George Kittle role? Now, no one can pretend that there's a Travis Kelce role that's just going to grow on trees. Like, we have Brock Bowers, we've got Trey McBride. Those guys are volume locked in. There's a reason they're top three. We can't project that type of volume for a tight end. However, with Tucker Kraft, you could see him get a bump to maybe 100 targets, and that turns into 75 to 80 receptions. I mean, he was at 14 yards a catch last year. That comes out to about 1,100 or 1,200 yards. And he had 7 touchdowns. So he's incredibly efficient at scoring touchdowns. But even if he doesn't score touchdowns, that's 80 for 12 or 75 for 1,107 from a tight end, or 5, whatever the number is touchdown-wise, is going to be fantastic at where you can get him. Currently going off the board, underdog, ADP, tight end 13, 132.
And he attended tight end university, which is really the most important thing we're looking for in June right now. He's down there in Nashville with the boys, pretending to train, but really just drinking beer in, beer out. I get very similar 2019 Mark Andrews vibes with him, to where we got a little bit of familiarity with the quarterback the year before. Quarterback was Jordan Love, very injured last year for large parts of the season. Malik Willis is playing 4 games, and they just didn't have a passing offense when that was the case. So he continues to grow. Like you said, all of his metrics are incredible. He has a clear path to be top 2 in targets, and he is the touchdown threat there. So love him, and I've just been banking on him later. And if he's not there, if for whatever reason somebody beats me to him, they're not necessarily going neck and neck, but I've been an Njoku guy. Even a little bit later, I don't mind pop shots on Dallas Goedert, or even waiting a little bit later and seeing if there's a good streaming option. So I say all that to say I've been punting even further this position in those mid rounds. So we can take another running back here, maybe a guy that we think could win a backfield. Are you this is where the Jaguars guys start going, right? Are you a Bigsby guy? Are you a Tootin guy? Are you an ETN guy? Do you make the decisions in your household, or do you have an executor that controls things for you? It's really all dependent upon these kind of equations. So I like to, but for the sake of not being a complete lunatic and having to start filling out this roster in some meaningful way, we've got to look at wide receiver here. And guys I'm targeting in this round, if I'm targeting them, are guys that I think will be the clear ones on their team, will earn a significant amount of the target share, and I think are being significantly underdrafted in regards to where I think they can perform. So we're talking about guys like Josh Downs. We're talking about Calvin Ridley. We're talking about Juwan Jennings. We're talking about Rome Odunze if he slides, because I have seen Rome fall a little bit. Khalil Shakir if he drops a little bit too. Just passing offenses that I think have a real chance to finish significantly higher than the ADPs of the wide receivers that are being drafted. And look, I don't think any of these guys have a real shot at finishing top 10, but if I can get the wide receiver 14 out of one of them, he's probably only going to be 0.8 points per game difference behind the guy who finishes wide receiver 10. So I'm just throwing darts, and I'm trusting that the knowledge is there.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that point. I mean, Rome Odunze and Calvin Ridley were two of the most unrealized air yards last year. Josh Downs managed to put up 13 points a game in the most putrid passing environment that you could possibly imagine. Alliteration aside, I'm just personally offended by that. So, and Khalil Shakir is as safe as they come. That Josh Allen slot role has always had value for as long as he's been the quarterback. Once he figured out how to actually play quarterback and, complete forward passes at a regular level. I mean, he's just a freak athlete. So, he had time to figure it out. He figured it out. Now he's incredible. League MVP. But so we've got our first receiver off the board here, right?
Yep.
Now we've broken the seal. Are we going to hammer wide receiver? Because right now we're in that 6-7 range, if I'm tracking correctly.
Yeah.
Josh Downs is coming off the board. Round pick 85. So like that seventh round wide receiver 46 currently. That's just insane to me. He's going
nuts. One of the best, maybe the best value on the board this year if things break correctly.
Yes. Full agree. We've been aligned way too much, Chuck. I don't know how I feel about this.
I feel good. That's why we wanted to do this show, because we knew that the vibes are going to be strong, and they sure as hell are. They're not disappointing. For this next pick, let's go here. You know what? This just when they think the wide receiver run is coming, this is when we have to keep them on their toes. This is when we have to be the guys that they were afraid we would end up being, and we just have to scoop up some value somewhere. So let's get a little. Let's go back to those running back by committee situations. Let's grab a Tank Bigsby, who I think is going to be the guy there in Jacksonville.
Oh wow!
If Tank's gone, I don't mind a little Tajay Spears or Zach Charbonnet. I don't know how much I project for them, but I know that they're going to have meaningful roles in some way, shape, or form. So let's throw a wrench in the board and people are going to be targeting. Those are specific players, especially Tank Bigsby. Somebody's going into the draft with them being a fundamental piece of their team. He's going to be our RB6. That's where we start breaking people down emotionally, spiritually, physically, everything.
Yeah. That is where you become the boogeyman, and you have somebody who's just in your DMs every day. Like, bro, why did you draft all those running backs, man? It's ridiculous. Like you're just donating money. It's like, I got the second most points scored in the league, and I'm 6-0, bro. Like,
that's right. That's how you get called a nerd and a Chad at the same in the same comment section. It feels good, man.
That's wicked work. Being a nerd and a Chad at the same time, or a nerd named Chad. However you want to go about it. So you're a Charbonnet, Spears, Bigsby. I lean more on the side of ETN just because I've seen him catch passes before, and I'm not sure if Tank Bigsby has like Ninja Turtle feet that his gloves turn into when they try to get him to catch passes. So that's the reason that I'm more on the ETN side, just because you know that there's going to be a ridiculous amount of screens in that Liam Cohen offense. And while Tank Bigsby had an amazing breakaway run percentage, and he just looked like the better back in all of 2024, I just don't trust the pass catching.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for the person in this offense that cannot get away from defenders. And he led the league in yards after contact per rush, but I don't know how much better the offensive line is. And, that gets lost in the Liam Cohen talk a lot from last year. The Buccaneers had a top 5 run block line, top 5 over line in general. Those players didn't come with him to Jacksonville. So can he scheme up the rushing attack to be better than it was last year? I sure as hell hope so, because every running back on this team is getting hit behind the line of scrimmage often. So ETN still looked good when they were able to get him in space, when he was able to find the rare hole and, get to the second level. I mean, he's still got the burst. He's in his prime. Two of these 3 backs in Jacksonville are going to be cannibalizing their production. So whoever is what's the opposite of odd man out? Like
the last man in, I guess.
Yeah, last man in, something like that. Whoever that guy is going to have a primo role here. So just take your bet. That's where you guys out there, the listeners, that's where you just got to go with your gut and say, I'm betting on this guy. Because you're not even really betting. Round 9, round 8, like, come on, you're playing with house money at this point, I think. So and that's how I feel. And then there's several backfields that are like that, like the what else we got? Who else is in here? The Jets backfield is not quite like that. The Commanders, that's who I was looking for. The Commanders backfield is like that as well. Like, I can't believe you can look at a guy like Jaden Daniels and all the opportunity this team has, and they're going to roll out Zach Ertz again, Brian Robinson again. I do like Debo, but it's certainly, there's not a ton of pop there. So do you want to attach yourself to a high volume offense and put money on a guy, whether it's going to be, do you think that Brian Robinson can just plod away again to another, RB 14 finish where he has several top 3 weeks? Austin Eckler's a cut candidate, so probably not him. But then Ja'Cory Croskett, what is it?
Ja'Cory Croskett Merritt.
Meyer, thank you. I mean, like that could be a guy with real juice who's starting by like week 7, and he's free. So we're just looking for backfields at this point.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've learned over the course of, and it should just be a math thing, but I think we're slowly marrying. Well, actually, it's happened way faster than what I wanted to. Is like people are using math and using that to make fantasy decisions statistically, where it's like, oh, should I take this back in the backfield that averages 12 points a game? Or should I take David Montgomery in one of the best offenses known to man? So, taking a bet on Ja'Cory Croskett Merritt is something I'm completely comfortable with. He's been one of my favorite selections in the late rounds of dynasty startups. And then I'm kind of rotating, I'll save that part for for the last rounds of the draft, but just rotating an 18th round pick in best ball between a lot of players that I feel like have boom potential. So after you've kind of navigated that Tajay Spears, Charbonnet, Bigsby deal, you're also looking at kind of Brian Robinson. You're looking at like less so the Jets backfield, as we mentioned, but just a little bit of ambiguity with a guy that's there as a placeholder, but that his job is not, he doesn't have a strong foothold on the job.
Yeah.
Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, both in the last years of their contracts. Ja'Cory Croskett Merritt was incredible, but he was ineligible, so we didn't get to see him in 2024. So it's not really like he should be a 7th round pick, but this isn't the episode for that. Chuck, where are we heading after we've waded through the waters of, mid running backs that may or may not have an opportunity share?
All right, this is where we have to start looking at wide receivers that are somewhat in a committee and or are being underlooked because they don't love what the offense, the passing offense has shown so far. So we are going to dip our toes and back into the wide receiver pool here. I like Ibuka. Ibuka's a stash play, and if you want him, you have to pay up for him. And that's going to be the annoying part about this year, because there's probably going to be a lot of games, and they're probably going to be early on where you're getting just flashes and glimpses. But I do think eventually, with how many 3 wide receiver sets the Bucs are going to end up running, and how bad I think their secondary still is going to end up being, I just think they're going to have to score. If they want to win, they're going to have to score 40. And I think he's going to be a big part of that. And I think, the proof is in the pudding as far as the draft capital they gave him. Yeah. And then you have other high upside guys we're just begging to take the torch from the guys that have been in that role, whether it is like a Trey Harris, so we don't have to watch Quentin Johnson anymore. Whether it is like a Christian Kirk, because, we know that Stroud is going to favor that underneath slot role. Is it a Mims, because we're dying for somebody to step up in Denver? We know that wide receiver 2 role, that production's coming. It's just, who's it going to be? Rashid Shaheed, can he recover from injury? And he was Rashid Shaheed. The backflips I was doing on on tables after 2 weeks last year with how unbelievable Shaheed was, with Clint Kubiak running the show. Now you bring in Kellen Moore, who could potentially be an upgrade. Just guys that I think we're going to get another shot on here, who I know are going to be starters, who I know are going to be anywhere from, 80 to 110 targets if things break high or low. Just depends on how you go. And then once those guys are gone, we can get our Tucker Crafts, we can get our Justin Fields, our Drake Mays, and round out the squad.
Yeah, I love that point. I mean, waiting a little bit later. So we went rookie running back a little bit earlier, round 4, round 5, and now we're talking rookie wide receiver. Or old dog Christian Kirk. That's the most unsexy pick.
Really,
that's the most unsexy pick that's going to net you probably 11 points a game as long as he's healthy. That's where we're headed. Yeah. So I love that. I mean, obviously, I'm with you on the Rashid Shaheed thing. Like, he was probably my 4th most owned player in 2024 best ball. Rocking. So really excited about what he was putting on tape, and then all of a sudden it's just like, hey, I'm done for the year. So
it's a tough go. You basically, with these guys, you're drafting the role. You're drafting the Texan slot role. You're drafting the Kellen Moore Z role in the Saints offense. And you know what? If you want to take Kirk now, and then you want the last pick of your draft to be Jalen Noel, like, boom, lock that slot down. You're going to feel pretty good about that stuff. If you want to double dip your toes with like like a Cedric Tillman coming up here, you want the X role in the Kevin Stefanski offense. Like, boom, go ahead and lock that down because you know where Judy's going to operate and you know where Njoku's going to operate. Like, you have guys who have flashes, and it's just going to be, you don't have to worry about the running backs. You don't have to worry about, you know, a Ray Davis. You don't have to worry about a J.K. Dobbins or a Tyler Algier unless you want to handcuff Bijan, which you probably do. But like, you don't have to worry about these guys because you know that if your number one running back goes down for 3 weeks, you've got Kyron Williams.
5 other options that are going to score double-digit points.
You know, then that's the tricky part about wide receiver is if you lose Puka Nacua, you can't slide Matthew Golden in there. Like right. It's just it doesn't quite work as well. Now maybe people out there are going to say, well, there's not just two strategies. You can just build a great team based upon who's available. Guys, it's a new Gen X high tea show today. Buy in, buy the subscription package to our product and follow the path. And you'll see results.
Yeah. So look, if you want to be just walking around, you know, saggy man boobs, go ahead, draft all those wide receivers and go 0 running back. If you want to just be out here, bricked up and just walking around, just chasing your wife, grabbing her ass all around the house, get you a bunch of running backs and build you a fantasy squad off 0 wide receiver.
Yeah.
So now that we go ahead.
This is you know what this is great for if anyone's out there like me. This is the projections like all-star team. If you have this kind of draft. Like, you know, when you roll up to your roster Thursday morning and your projections, you're like, hell yeah. Even if I'm not going to win by 10, it's telling me I'm going to win by 20 and you get those vibes. Because if your team's going to let you down, don't you want to be projected to win and get that quick high as opposed to like, oh, I was projected to lose by 20 and I lost by 20. Like, no, I wanted a little bit of happiness, a little bit of joy, a little bit of good feeling.
Yeah. Like, hey, look, as long as football's not happening, this squad is awesome.
Yeah. And the sleeper ESPN Yahoo, they have a hard-on erection for running back projections. You see guys that are second stringers that are projected to outscore, you know, wide receiver like a Mike Evans, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, maybe that's like a dopamine thing or what, but I'm addicted to it.
Listen, in all honesty, seriously, everybody's really a high T guy. Okay.
And they want to be.
Everybody's really a high T guy. It's if you're not a hit T guy, it's just because you're low T. You just got low T. You just need some more running backs in your life. And that's what we're trying to bring you today. So after we've hit the old dog Christian Kirk and then the explosive playmaker Rashid Shaheed, where are we headed to kind of close out the draft? Like, what are your targets in those later? We're in the late round territory where we're kind of taking dart throws. So we mentioned earlier that, you know, this is kind of the range where you're looking at those Drake Mays, you're looking at the Justin Fields. So is that kind of where we're headed right now?
Yeah, we're snagging the quarterback to be sure. We want to be locked in and we want to feel pretty good about, you know, because if you lose out on one of these rushing quarterbacks in the later rounds, you're not going to get the points you need from the traditional drop back passers. That, you know, like who's going back here? That would even be a good example of that. Like Trevor Lawrence, Tua, like guys I think, you know, could have nice seasons. But you're talking about trying to raise the top line floor of your offense. So we're going to snag one of those guys, maybe even 2 of them. If you want to lock in, guarantee that, you know, you're not sure which guy's going to pop more. You're not wasting picks at this point. And then let's have some fun with some of the receivers. Like, let's get some nostalgia picks. How about an Adam Thielen, who was the wide receiver 12 in PPR last year when he came back from injury over the course of a 7-week stretch? I think he had 2.25 yards per route run, cooked with Bryce Young. And, you know, athleticism was never been a big part of his game. So he's aging pretty gracefully. So we like that. Alec Pierce, who, if you are just like a cardio junkie, maybe you're looking for inspiration, somebody you know is going to, you know, run a lot and kind of, you know, get that nice tight figure that you're looking for. And then after that, it's just like you can be a sucker for things. What if you saw Dontavian Wick's reception perception profiler and it was all green for every route that he ran, and you say Wicks might be the guy this year. Let's grab Wicks. Let's grab Tyler Lockett, wide receiver 2 potentially for the Titans. I mean, like, is Lockett toast? Probably. But can he still catch a damn ball from Cam Ward? Probably. So I don't know. You're just having fun. It's fun time.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're taking in this range, you're taking dart throws. So
Yep.
we've aged out of we've ADP'd out of the hey, these guys could have some potential ball volume
Yep.
or offer spike weeks. Now we're just kind of taking dart throws. Like, hey,
Sure.
is this a possibility? Is it
Mm.
possible that Tyler Lockett can catch and fall down in Nashville this year a bunch? Absolutely.
Yep.
Is it possible that Alec Pierce with stable quarterback play can give you 1,006 and he's available in the 13th round of your draft? Absolutely.
Yes.
If you believe that they're going to figure out how to complete forward passes in American tackle football in 2025 for the Indianapolis Colts, then Alec Pierce is a fine bet. I mean, he led the league in yards per reception with 22 last year.
Yeah.
It happened a little bit, and you've seen this weird connection where obviously Anthony Richardson has no depth perception or something where he can't throw it short.
That needs to be the new stat? No dot, like no depth. Like that needs to be. Let's move on from a dot and let's get no depth.
Yeah, like he has zero depth perception. So it's like he can see Alec Pierce 30 yards down the field and put it in a bucket, 35, 40 yards out. So that's a great bet. And
yeah.
I think it has more merit than what people are giving it credit for, just because, we saw how bad it could be. But here's the deal. It can't get worse than that.
No. I mean, you
literally can't
do not want the middle of the field in Indianapolis. I want the guy who's catching the deep balls, or I want the guy who's working underneath, which is Josh Downs, who I think he had like the fourth lowest ADOT for minimum snaps or something like that last year. And he was dominant with it too. So, and then you've got guys who are misperceived, right? Like Jalen McMillan. If there's an injury in Tampa, which there's been known to be, or Ibuka and Godwin's roles overlap in any meaningful way, you're talking about a guy who we know can play, who has chemistry with Baker, and who can, absolutely tear up the vertical part of the field. And you know what? You may only need them for 3 or 4 weeks, but you know what? Those might be week winners.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a beautiful point, just because that those guys are going to have value at some point. And instead of having to spend, you're going to have a bunch of running backs on your roster. You're going to have a bunch of running backs on your bench. So we're only spending four spots, maybe 5 spots, if I'm counting correctly, at max on wide receivers.
Yeah. Do you want the filthiest pick you could make here, which nobody's going to love, but I'm telling you, you're not going to regret it, is Wan'Dale Robinson is definitely in that
PPR. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, 140 targets last year. They changed nothing about the offense except for upgrading the quarterback. Okay. Let's do it again.
Yeah. I think mine in this late round range is Cedric Tillman.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy in the later rounds, just because everybody's just ignoring. It's like, oh, yeah, Jerry Jeudy was on pace for 1,700 yards in the second half of last year. That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah. Like Cedric Tillman, the first time that he got an opportunity to play, he was awesome. He was a wide receiver 1 for 3 weeks over a 3-week stretch. Now it's a small sample size, and we don't know what 40-year-old Joe Flacco is going to bring to the table or what they're going to do at the quarterback position, honestly. So I don't know, but do you have any closing thoughts before we get out of here? As far as this build goes, I thought you were trolling me when you said this at first. I 100% thought you were trolling me. I was like, okay, 0 wide receiver. Let's go with it. But my eyes have been thoroughly opened, and I'm actually way more open to this now. I like it a lot more. This is kind of what the teams that advanced in best ball last year were. This is what they were on. They're playing fantasy football like it's 2009. Yeah. And it works. So, and I love running backs, and you're a high T guy. You love running backs. So yeah, give us your closing thoughts on this build and why, what struck you and how you landed here.
So this is kind of just like indicative of what's actually going on in the NFL. You're seeing less points scored. You're seeing less yards overall. You're seeing defenses just shut down the deep pass into even trying to take away the intermediate parts of the field. You're seeing smaller but faster linebackers and defensive linemen, which means the run game that's why the run game is coming back. And you have smart play callers that are leaning on it. And you're also in this rare time where, we talked about the veteran running backs in this league. Well, usually 7 of the 10 best running backs in the league are not 27 and older. Usually it's a young man's league, but it's a generational class, generational players on teams with terrific play callers. Josh Jacobs with Matt LaFleur, Derrick Henry with Todd Monken, Christian McCaffrey with Kyle Shanahan, so on and so forth. So there's not a running back dead zone this year. That's kind of what this comes down to. You don't have to worry about these crap players unless you fall for like an Isaiah Pacheco. No shade, of course. God willing, please recover. But, I just feel like we're copying the NFL and we're copying what's working. And that's kind of just what I want to do. And also, when you have a running back, there's always a chance. You're going to get 15 touches. You're going to get 17 touches. You're going to get 20 touches. When you have one of these wide receivers, minimal targets, they do score more points when they get their opportunities, but you're relying on these quarterbacks who suck. These quarterbacks suck, guys. A lot of them are not very good, and they're scheme merchants. They're rush merchants. And so that's kind of just my spiel when it comes to I'm just piggybacking what I think the smartest guys in the NFL are doing, and that's deploying the run game.
Yes. No, I mean, just going back to the point about math earlier, where if you're at most, Malik Neighbors led the league last year with 11 targets a game. His target share was a record-breaking target share.
Yeah.
And, that's the max that you're looking at in terms of targets per game. Now, with a middling running back, you're looking at more 16 to 19 opportunities a game.
Yeah.
Chase Brown averaged 24 touches a game once he became the workhorse last year. I think it was 23 touches a game between carries and receptions. Like carries, receptions, targets, it came out to about 23 a game. So for me, I think that this has been a little eye-opening because there's just so much safety. Now, are we due for probably a little bit of regression in terms of injury health? Absolutely. But here's the deal. With a lot of these bell cows, most of their replacements are going to be able to be had. So if you wanted to just completely eschew the wide receiver position and say, hey, I'm going studs and then handcuffs, you can go correlate a direct handcuff to a direct, to a stud running back.
Yeah.
Whereas if Justin Jefferson's gone, they're shifting the game plan, and it's not just going to go to it's not just going to go to Jordan Addison or TJ Hawkinson or Jalen Naylor or Ty Felton. You know what I'm saying? So I absolutely love this point. And as we got into it, I was like, oh, I like a lot of what's happening here. But
you guys have got to, this is number one. You have to commit. You cannot get to the fourth round and say, you know what, let's draft Cortland Sutton as my wide receiver one. So at least I have somebody on a high powered offense, something target share, whatever have you. Would you rather have Cortland Sutton as your wide receiver one or Kenneth Walker as your running back four? I mean, these are no brainer decisions to me, but you can't chicken out. You have to commit to the bit. Otherwise you're hamstringing the entire strategy.
Yeah. You can't get halfway down the road and say you're coming back. There's only fuel to go one way.
That's right. This is a one-way destination, and you're either making it or you're making the news.
Testosterone and championships. That's what we're preaching today, brother.
Ooh, TNC. I like it.
Before we get out of here, brother, tell us where we can find all your work and what you're working on right now, Chuck.
Sure. So I host Risers and Fallers with the aforementioned Pete Nova once a week. We're just having a really good time. I'm starting to really get into it with each other. Pete really got to me today. He started dogging me, and he's teased me here or there a little bit, but today he really dropped the hammer. So we're really connecting well over there. I've been doing the Keep Trade Chuck shorts on YouTube, which has really been a lot of fun. Just kind of, spinning the wheels until September comes along and the drinking really goes to levels that, everybody but my wife is used to.
Beautiful. Well, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on again. We're going to have to do it again soon. As always, I'm the legendary ball knower. This has been another episode of Two Guys, One Pod. Hey, as I leave you, there's ball watchers and there's ball knowers. Assign yourselves accordingly. Have a good night, everybody.